very impromptu clinic doing this. Just found out a couple days ago I was going to be here, and it's a pleasure to be here. But I thought it would be cooler if I load in some of my own sounds. That's what I'm doing right now. So I'll talk to you. So I've been on the road with Dream Theater. How many people are coming to the show? Yeah, we've been on the road for a while now. This tour is a 7-week tour, and it's been a lot of fun. Different town every day. I just woke up. I just got off the bus actually this morning, delirious at 10 a.m. And my tour manager was like, "Wake up, wake up!" And I was in the middle of some really, really weird dreams. And but I got up and I was like, "Okay, get yourself together. You're gonna go to a clinic today. Here you go." So I'm here. So while this is loading, I'll tell you. So I've been using Korg equipment for a long time, and that's it's been an amazing relationship with Korg. I was recounting to my friend who is the distributor here for Korg, like kind of my story with Korg, which is basically which is good. Joe. That's my protege over there, wonderful musician, Joe Peter, who helped me load in that USB stick. It's a little tricky, right? Yeah, I started using Korg a long time ago, and actually way back when, before the beginning of time, I was a Korg product specialist, believe it or not. And then when my career started to take off, and I couldn't do that anymore, but I remained very close with Korg. And for a while, I was using the Oasis keyboard, which was another Korg instrument, an 88-note keyboard. Now I use the Kronos. And the great thing, one of the best things about the Kronos for me is that I'm able to go from one sound to another sound so easily. There's no interruption in the sound at all. And that means so much to me. So if I'm playing something, a big patch with reverbs and chorusing and layers and all that stuff, I can easily go from one to the other, which is amazing. So let me just take a second and kind of look and see what I loaded in. I can play some stuff in the chat. All right. Yeah, so like in the Dream Theater world, I play, in what's called the set list mode. Where's the level for the mic? I just want to turn it up a little so I don't feel like I'm speaking so loud. I want to turn it up. Who's at the store that can do that? Just turn the mic up a little. The mic up? Yeah. Cool. And also, if there's a switch pedal around, just a regular standard switch pedal, that would help me too. There's one thing I do when I'm with Dream Theater, which is really, really helpful, is I just like let people say, "How do you change the sounds like that?" Because I'll go from one sound to the other very, very quickly. And it's not that magical, although I guess it seems magical. It's just a pedal, which I'm hoping that one of the guys can grab for me. And I can just do that. So let's see if we can find a pedal. While he's looking for that, I'll show you. So it can be on a piano sound. And while that's holding, oh, there we go. Seamless kind of idea that is really the beauty of this instrument. So the other thing that's great, and like some people say, oh, I just use like software, and that gets the job done. And like they ask me why I don't just use software on stage, and It's because, a couple of reasons. One, I've spent many years programming the Korg technology, and I just really, really love it. And there are things I can do, like my lead sound, which is very, very specific, and I use the controllers in an interesting way, and I just can't seem to get that out of these virtual instruments. So something, something like this. All these wacky sounds, and so what this enables me to do, one of the great things about this is that this little joystick over here is it's possible to move left and right to control pitch. And I like to set it so I can go an octave down and then a whole step up. So I can go up, or I can do these whammy kind of things where it's all the way down. In addition to that, if I move the joystick towards me or away from me, it's bringing in harmonics. And then with the switches, I can change which harmonics it brings in. In addition to that, there's a ribbon right underneath the joystick. And if I put the way I do it is I put my fifth finger, my pinky, down on that ribbon. It adds this, I programmed it so it adds this kind of like low sub kind of grungy stuff. So I can kind of bring in the low octave when I want it. And if I add the harmonics, I've also got it programmed so it kind of interacts with the harmonics, so it becomes very, very much alive. Like so I get a lot of mileage out of the whole kind of like lead thing, and that's really very much a signature preview. Does the preview stop there? It does. So. The other thing that's amazing, okay, so when I play on stage, about 95% of what I do, everything you hear comes out of the Kronos, which is pretty crazy, and it's, in a way, it's unbelievable, but it is true. And that's one of the reasons that I can use this, because it's like it's a workhorse. You can I've played thousands of gigs, and it's just so reliable, and I'm not kidding. It just truly is. And that's so important to me as a working musician. But I can do all kinds of splits and layers. Now, splits and layers is not that unusual in today's world, but the way that it's organized on the Korg, and the way that it sounds, and the way, again, that I can go from patch to patch is really unique. So I could have, like in this example, sound, which is layering a choir, and some mellotron stuff, all kinds of interesting things. And in the right hand, another reason that I really love the Korg stuff, it's because I have a whole lot of really, really heavy sounds. A lot of times, as keyboard players, Gerald can attest to this too, sometimes we have to be very modest and leave our ego at the door, because when you're playing in a rock band and you play a sound like this, even though it's heavy as lead, everybody's looking at the guitar player. It's very frustrating sometimes, but you kind of go, okay. And in the Dream Theater world, that's that's kind of what's going on. We'll have these layers where I'm playing a sound like this one, It's really, really low and super, super heavy. And it just blends in with the guitar so beautifully that it creates a different kind of a color, which is, really very cool. But again, no ego involved, because everybody's looking at John going, wow, that's the fattest sound I've ever heard. And I'm going, no, but it's partly me. It's okay, it's okay. I'm relaxing. Another thing about the Kronos is that the piano sounds, piano of course is a very, very important element to everything a keyboard player does. So, and there's many choices of piano sounds in the Kronos, and I use, depending on the song, I'll use a lot of them. Everything from the basic piano sound like that to layering the piano so I can get yeah, I'm just improvising here a little bit. But you can get a feeling for the breadth of the sounds that I use in a live show. There's a song that we're doing, let's see, because I've got all these sounds that are here. There is a song we play, Pale Blue Dot. Do you guys know that song? Okay, just looking for some of the sounds that I use in that, because they're pretty cool. Everything from this mellotron kind of, the pianos mixed with pads. Crazy synth, patches. And, a lot of times what I'll do is I will layer sounds a lot. Something that will sound like one sound, like this sound. You can think, okay, it's one thing, but it's really not. If I go in and kind of solo it at the different layers, you've got this. That's one. That's two. 3. 4. All those let's make up this. So I'm kind of like a cook in the kitchen, if you will, when I make my sounds. A lot of the ones that I call like these proggy kind of sounds are also very much layered. Let's see if I can find. Actually, I'll get back to that, but I wanted to show you something along these lines. Oh yeah, this is a famous kind of dream theater sound. I made this sound years ago, and it kind of caught on, and it seemed to really work with the guitars a lot. We affectionately call it the pig. Yes. Similar. Oh, you got the pedal. Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, the pig. It was really funny in the studio sometimes. We'd be hanging out. These are in the days of Mike Portnoy, and Mike would be like, I'd be trying different sounds, and he'd go, yeah, just use the pig, man. Use the pig, it always works. So the pig is definitely a sound that comes into play a lot. Even a sound like this, we can go in and kind of take it apart a little bit, see what it's made of. A little bit of piano is in there, and then so I'm just soloing out the parts so we can hear how I create these crazy things. You don't hear that necessarily, but it's definitely a part of the recipe. The low register, that's part of it, right? And it's soft, but it's there. That. A little bit of that sound. This one is in there, and you also have you put them all together, and you get that. Morgenstein project. Does that ring a bell to anybody? One guy, this was years ago, probably before some of you were born. It was a group that I had with Rod Morgenstein, an amazing drummer, who we would play just keyboards and drums, and I would do this kind of extreme like keyboard programming because I kind of have a left hand that works, and I would use that to play the bass, and we would just do the whole thing. You can look it up, the Rudis Morgenstein project. Really a fun, it was a lot of fun music. I'm thinking about doing something like that again because it was really a cool live thing as well. All right, so let me go back into the Pale Blue Dot sounds because, yeah, so one of the things in Pale Blue Dot, it's a big, like, epic kind of song, and we need, like, because again, the keyboard player's ego always has to stay in the background. In this case, you know, in progressive rock, you guys know what the Taurus bass pedals are? Taurus bass pedals. So this was the thing that made the sound of like Genesis and, King Crimson and different groups would use this kind of Moog Taurus bass pedals. So generally, I'll be playing the Taurus bass pedals with my pinky. So if you hear like, and the whole room is shaking, like maybe another good example of that. Let me move on into the next set here. Hold on a second. It's kind of scrolling through my patches here a little bit. To Spirit Carries On. All right, so Spirit Carries On. I've got the Taurus bass pedal in my pinky, literally, my fifth finger, and then choir and piano in that hand, and big organ chords as well. So it kind of all comes together like this. Tonight, and if you feel the ground shaking and the walls trembling, the PA is very large and very cool. When I hit this sound, you'll know it. You'll feel it. So it's one of the most fun kind of like layers that I do. So here's another preview, I guess. There's a part in Finally Free where you've got these huge kind of bells going on. Last time. You know the words? I don't. I know the melody though. That's more important, right? More previews. At the end, this is kind of a fun sound too. 3 stages, okay, this sound, which is fun. It's got really big. Again, so I should stress that, in 2020, the life of a keyboard player is pretty damn good because we have these instruments and they keep getting better every year. And to do a gig like the Dream Theater gig, sonically speaking, what else do you really want? I mean, honestly, there are things that I, as somebody who has a technology company called Wisdom Music, there are things that I could see improve, maybe with interfaces and touching things and seeing colors and lights and spacey holograms and VR and all kinds of stuff. But from a sonic point of view, I mean, this is a... sounds pretty good. It's not like in the old days where we kind of have a little bit of a cheesy sound. We go, I wish this was better, this could be cooler. This is exactly what I really want. So at the end of the song, it kind of goes through 3 levels. So it starts here. on the keyboard for two reasons, one of which is fun. The other reason is because a lot of things I'll do are kind of velocity sensitive, so like... So lightly. And you might say, well, why do you have like a guitar sound in there? It's because I have no ego. And I'm helping the sound. You know, a little more guitar is always good, especially you can ask the guitar player. More guitar, louder. How many guys are guitar players? Okay, tell me honestly, you're the loudest ones in your band? Come on, be honest. Yes. I remember the time I was on stage, and I'm not kidding, this is in the early days of Dream Theater, before we used in-ear monitors. And we had speakers. And I had these Mackie speakers. I think they were called the SRM 450 speakers. They were pretty big monitors. And I had 6 of them. Okay, so each one is about this high. So they stacked up to about here, and I had 2 columns of them. All right, so you're imagining that. And I thought I was playing pretty loud. I'd walk on stage, and I could not, didn't matter what I did, I could not hear those speakers. I was playing. They were going off. They had a little protection mechanism, and they kept turning off because I was trying to play as loud as the bass player, whose amplifier was only about half the size, but somehow it was a lot louder than the one that I was using. I'm convinced that if a guitar player has a pig nose amp and I have my 6 Mackie speakers, I still won't hear myself. It's a rule of nature. The guitar has to be louder than anything else. Right? Right? I mean, it just happens. So, yeah, I've almost given up trying. But the fight isn't quite done yet. I can still, you know, try. Anyway, so, let me show you a couple more things. I'll talk about the Korg stuff a little bit. So the other thing to really understand is that you know, one of the really important reasons that I use the Korg Kronos all over the world is because I really want to have an instrument that was built for music. I don't really want to use my computer so much, and because the computers are fantastic, and in the studio I'll use them all the time, but they're also built for a lot of other things. So if I just use my Kronos, which of course is based on a computer inside of it, but it's all geared towards the music, I feel a lot more secure, and I've had a lot more good fortune in having the results I need all the time. So when people say, what do you use in the studio? I'm like, well, in the studio I use my keyboard, and mostly I use software, right? But live, when I go out and I play with Dream Theater, it's literally 95% the Korg Kronos. It's important to kind of, you know, understand where you know, I'm coming from with all this kind of stuff. And also discuss the variety of sounds. You know, I can get. I mean, it just goes through so many different kind of sonic, stylistic kind of things. When we do that tonight, I want to see everybody's fist in the air and wah wah, and you can make that wah wah sound. Okay, you want to practice? Here we go. See you guys doing it. Try again. 1, 2, 3, go! That's it. You have your rehearsal. I reviewed you on the one last time thing, although you have to know all the words yourself. Can't help you with that too much. But I think you guys are pretty prepared for the step. Yeah, yeah, it's also the keyboard player's role to play some sound effects as well, which everybody thinks is coming from God or something like that, you know. And very often it's coming from the keyboard player. That's a very Jordan sound, and that's one of the reasons I really dig the Kronos. Because I can do all these kind of interesting mixtures, and also the other thing is all my sounds have the very specific effects. So whereas I might have just a little bit of verb on that, I have a little bit more on that, and so I can have delay on some sounds and reverb on others, and I can have a rotary speaker on the organ, and it all lives inside this amazing machine, which is pretty cool. And one thing, what's really funny is I walked into the store today, and I knew I was playing on a Kronos. I forgot that they also make these ones that have the really light action. You know, I'm like a pianist turned synthesist, and whenever my show is done on a weighted action. So when I'm playing for you today, I'm being very careful not to hit extra keys because it's like there's no weight. But some, you know, an organ player would obviously love this. So I should say, so the Kronos comes with this, I think it's called like a semi-weighted action. I might be wrong, the guys at the store or the distributor might have some information. But it feels very, let me go to a sound here. It's almost too easy to play. And so so the keys are going down. The right keys are going down when I play, and sometimes the wrong keys are going down too, because it's too, there's no action for me. I need something with a little bit more give. So yeah, so let's see, what else can I show you before we take it? Different variations of my lead sound, which again, it's kind of an important thing. You know, in the guitar world, you think of guitarists because they have a very specific, I mean, what makes the difference between like a Steve Morse or a John Petrucci or like a Guthrie Govan? You know, they're all great players, but very often it's the tone, but it's also kind of in the way that they do their pitch bending and the vibrato. Like Steve Morse might have a kind of a very quick vibrato, where Petrucci is maybe a slightly slower, sexy vibrato. So some of these stylistic things are part of it, but as a keyboard player, so like I like to build tones that have a personality to it, so the sound, you know. It's got to, first of all, it's got to cut through the mix. So if anybody asks me, well, how do you build a keyboard lead sound? I said, well, you know, if you're playing with a full band with guitars and everything, it really has to, you have to be able to hear it. And I see there's people up top as well. Hello, hey everybody. I didn't even know you guys were there. That's so awesome. So yeah, it's got to cut through the mix. So probably in the keyboard world, it's the same. So if I'm playing like, which I bend and do vibrato is very much going to tell you it's me, or even if I'm doing like, you know. Almost lost the keyboard there. If you ever hear stuff like that on a record, you say, oh, that's probably Jordan. Right, you can tell. So, and again, it's so like a patch like this. mixture of guitar, a little bit of analog synthesis, and some kind of digital as well to give it that like larger than life thing. As a synthesist, I'm always looking for sounds that are kind of real, but are also maybe has their own characteristic, like. And over the years, I've made a lot of these heavy sounds, and they're not guitar, and they're not like a Moog synthesizer, but maybe they're. So it's one of the reasons I'm very tied into Korg is because I can make those kind of sounds, and over the years I've made so many patches kind of like that. I'll tell you a funny story. So I'm with the guys years ago, Scenes from My Memory. That song is Beyond This Life. So we got to the section, we were writing all the music, and we made it up to this part, right? And Mike Portnoy was kind of like, you know, it'd be really cool to have like a Zappa kind of part in here. Of course, he looks at me, because who else was going to write something like that? So I said, and I was thinking, oh, I can do that. I can make quirky, you know. Whatever, I wanted to take the job. So I said, okay, you guys stay here in the live room. I'm gonna take my music paper and I'm gonna go upstairs to the other little control room there, and I'm just gonna write something. I'll be down in like an hour or two. So I went up there literally, and I worked on this kind of crazy, stuff, all these weird chords. Repeating kind of rocking bass line, and okay, so I left them alone, and I was up there probably an hour and a half, and I wrote it all down. I still do this with like pencil and paper, literally just with pencil and paper. And I came down and I said, okay guys, let's try this. I think I got something. And I played it for them, and Mike was like, oh my God, I love that, that's perfect. The other guys looked at me like, are you out of your mind? What is that? For some people, extreme progressive music, it takes a little while to understand it. I was playing for, I met a guy yesterday who was a real classic rocker kind of guy, and it was really funny. He comes from a place where, you know, the deepest chord is like a power fifth, like. But I was playing like these kind of chords. He looked at me and said, what are all those wrong notes you're hitting? And I thought about it for a moment, and I said, oh, right. Anything that's not a major chord, a minor chord, or just a plain. You play this, those are wrong notes. So, really kind of funny, people's different perspective of music. So, let's see, what else do I want to show you guys? Let's see what time. I know we have to do a signing as well. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to kind of like close this part of it, and we're going to do a signing. Because I have a gig to play tonight, guys. You know? So, I can leave you with maybe a couple of big chords. Let's see. All right. I'll leave you with this sonic thing to remember. of improvising and also playing and showing you why I love the Korg stuff so much. This love affair is real. These things are really cool. And of course, you should also, if you're interested in the keyboards, you should also check out the grand stage and all the amazing instruments. Korg has the chrome, and I think we're kind of standing in Korg land here, so you can check it out. The Kronos, which I play, is like the mothership. It's the big daddy of them all. Yeah, thanks so much. And I'm going to do a signing, and I guess guys, Mr. will show me where that's going to happen, and we'll see a lot of you tonight, and maybe as I do this nice little thing. Yes. So.